Hey everybody, welcome back to Cinema Trip Reviews. I'm Wyatt. This week, Alex is back. No Evan. Like we said last week, something came up, but that's all right. We're reviewing the final part of the Fear Street Trilogy, Part 3, 1666. What were your overall first impressions of it, Alex?
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
You think? I did too, man.
More than I expected to.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm just not big on like the time period, and I went into it with kind of low expectations, but it actually kind of surprised me. I liked kind of the twists and turns that it went through with the story.
I also am not like a big witches, like Covenant kind of fan. That's not really my thing.
Yeah.
But this isn't giving too much away. They don't stick around there for the whole movie, which I liked a lot. That it got out of there, you know.
Yeah, and that was something that I kind of expected, especially with like going off the main story from the past two, which is the 1666, and then it goes to like 1994 part 2 for like the third act there, which is pretty cool.
I was expecting that also. I just like when it ended the 66, I was like, oh, that was quick. I expected it to be more. I felt like they just hit the beats that they needed to hit. They didn't linger on too many scares. They weren't like trying to fake us out.
I feel like I would have liked it less if the 1666 was just the whole movie. I feel like they put it just enough time in with it. It didn't overstay its welcome.
Like an episode of Goosebumps. I'm just
Hopping into it here, it does start out pretty much at the end of 1978, where the main girl takes the hand back and reunites it with the body, but whenever she touches the body, she kind of sees the history of Sarah Fear, and she kind of puts herself in her shoes. And you really get to find out the whole backstory of Sarah Fear pretty much, which is pretty interesting. It's not at all what everybody thought.
It's not at all what everybody's thought. My minor nitpick with that is I don't like that they put her in the shoes. I'd have just rather seen it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't need whatever her name, Diana or whatever. What was her name? I don't even remember the first name. Damn, that's bad. Anyways, I didn't need to see her as Sarah Fear.
You were close.
Dina, yeah. I didn't need to see her as Sarah Fear, and it especially felt forced because you're coming up on this beat that Sarah Fear and the Hannah Miller had kind of like a lesbian relationship, and that's where it all like went down, which I felt was not that the relationship was forced. I thought it was forced because they do in the present 1994, and then they brought it back. Like if it would have been two different characters, I'd have been okay with it. I mean, I am okay with it. I'm not okay with it.
I know what you mean. I think it tied a lot of things up nicely. It went in a couple directions I wasn't expecting it to go. I was pretty surprised because I thought I was going to be able to, these kind of movies where you're like, all right, this kind of, you can kind of predict where it's going to go. But it kind of took me on a different turn there.
I don't want to spoil. We'll go to the spoiler warning, but I am excited to talk about that. It was a good twist. It had a good twist to it.
We can just kind of give our overall review of it right now before we hit the spoilers.
Yeah, because it's hard to talk about it.
It's hard to talk about this because like pretty much the whole movie is explaining everything. Like you don't want to
wrapping it all up in a nice bow.
Exactly. So for most of this review, unlike the other two, it's gonna be spoiler filled.
Yeah.
So before we hit the spoilers, I thought it was pretty good movie that wrapped up the trilogy nicely with possibly set up movies in the future, who knows. But yeah, I thought it was pretty decent. I think the second one's the best still, but I thought it was a good way to wrap up the trilogy.
I agree with you. I think the second one's the best, but I actually flip-flopped. I like this one more than I like the first one. Not that I didn't like the first one.
I like this one more than the first one, I think.
It would go 2-3-1 for me.
2-3-1. I like the second one than this one. It just seemed like there was more depth to this one than the first one even. Like the first one, it was, I don't know if it was just because it was setting up a story, but it was definitely the weakest one out of the three.
I agree. I'd be excited to watch it again to see if it holds up, because like it was so interesting the first one because it was rapping and all. I'd be excited to watch it again to be like, okay, does this hold up, knowing the twist and knowing the turns? Is it still like a good movie? Because the second one's going to be the best. I think that one holds up the best, even just like thinking about it.
And even like going back and knowing everything that happens, you could possibly, I don't know, see like little hints. I don't know if they did that throughout the other two movies, but
I'd like
possibly
to see
some things that maybe you didn't notice because you didn't know where it was going at the time.
Even more than I like this movie, I gotta say this has been one of my favorite horror experiences in media in the last like few years. Like it's up there, not as high, but like that Halloween came out, was like super excited
Yeah.
for that. This has been one of my favorite horror experiences I've seen across these three movies in a long time. You
It's
know,
definitely pretty interesting because I mean, normally you just get like those little like Netflix original like one-off movies that like nobody really talks about, like maybe once
yeah,
every now and then. But this was like an event where you have three movies, and it's hard to. I mean, they're all like decent quality movies. They're not like
yeah,
schlocky, like really like
yeah,
B movies. Really, they're pretty quality
pretty good.
studio movies. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were all pretty good. I would recommend this to pretty much anybody in the horror franchise. Like, I can't think of too many three trilogy movies that I would recommend more over this. Like, you got your Evil Deads, obviously, you know,
Yeah.
but even your Halloweens, man. Like the third one, I guess that's Season of the Witch. I'm thinking the third Michael Myers one,
Oh
but
yeah.
but
Yeah.
like that one's a huge drop off between the first two, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This is a good trilogy for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend it, especially like I feel like they should have released it in October, man. I don't know why they're
Yeah,
doing it
weird.
now.
Weird. Yeah, I see that. Horror movies do that a lot where they just like miss the mark of October. Like I don't know if it's just like a studio thing. Maybe this was supposed to come out last October and COVID fucked it all up, and
Maybe.
they're just like get it out. It needs to be
Yeah, we
out. You
can't
know.
sit on another year. We have to
Yeah,
like put it out as soon as
that happens all
possible.
the time in studios. So
Yeah,
maybe
as a trilogy as a whole, I thought it was really good. I definitely recommend it, man.
recommend it. Highly recommend it.
Highly recommend it. And
Yeah.
with that note, spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Going right into the spoilers really early here. Pretty much the whole backstory. I mean, you're just getting Dina and Sarah Fear's shoes, which, going back to what you were saying, I feel like we could have just did with having the other actors, because later you see like flashes
Other
of the
actors.
real Sarah Fear.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I feel like you just could have had her in there
Yeah.
the whole time. I mean, unless maybe they did and they're like, all right, maybe she's like not
No,
a good
not a good
actress.
actress.
So we got her
Pretty
like,
shot.
Dina, can you learn these lines? Maybe come in here or whatever.
And that's why it got all recast and released in July.
Maybe
No,
they had to do some reshoots.
the only thing that again I didn't like is I was like, are they ancestors of each other? You know, like I was like getting that vibe. I was like,
Yeah,
is this whole
that's what I
town
was
gonna be
gonna.
an
Because one
ancestor?
is that you learn.
Yeah.
The one
Yeah,
is Solomon
one
Good.
is.
You
Yeah.
find out is the great ancestor of the sheriff from the 1994 one, and the sheriff is the kid in the 1978 one. But you kind of find out that there's an ancestry tree there, which makes you think they never explain. Is everybody else just ancestors of the town? Like,
Because Sarah Fear obviously didn't have no kids. Like,
yeah,
she didn't really have time for that. So like, Dina couldn't be her. I mean, I guess she could be in her lineage, but not like hers, you know. But
yeah.
no, the brother dies because the brother dies and the brother's young. So I don't know. It was a little confusing. I'm with you. I'd have preferred
Yeah.
just more characters, but you might be right. Maybe they're just terrible actors.
Maybe, who knows.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just start off like right off the gate, like the kids have like a party that the parents don't know about or whatever.
Doing drugs.
They steal some psychedelic berries from like the witch out in the middle of the woods.
We were talking about how we don't like witches in that time period. I like that this wasn't like a horror about witches and stuff. This was more about like town completely blowing things out of proportion and being like the whim of one word when things start going bad.
Oh,
like,
yeah, man.
I like that. That's the only reason I stayed interested in that. I was like, man, this fucking town is boom, like that turned, you know?
You find out like what you're talking about before is Sarah has a love interest with her friend
Hannah Miller.
And obviously, like at that time period, that was unacceptable. They thought that was a mortal sin. You would get hung for doing such a thing. So I mean, they had to keep it secret, and then like they kind of went off that night, and you know they start getting a little hot and heavy, and then someone might have saw them, you know, and that's where it kind of kickstarts. Which is like that was the thing I didn't understand. It was kind of a stupid decision by them. It was like they were afraid of getting caught. So they run back into the middle of town, and then they're like sitting there in the middle of town, and then like,
dude,
that's where the Crazy Thomas or whatever sees them.
So many times in that thing, I was like, just get the fuck out of there.
Just
like,
leave.
Just leave. Just go.
Just
you
leave.
see, it's not happening. Like they're like peeking into the church and watching them just like condemn them. I'm like, this is a good time to get the fuck out of there.
Go.
You know? Even
like whenever they I know she wants to save her girlfriend, you know, but at that point, like the whole town's looking to kill you. Get out of there. Run. Like they think you're a witch. You're never gonna go back there. You're never gonna be able to go back.
You don't need nothing there. Her brother was dead at that point. I mean, I guess maybe her dad, but at that point, her brother was dead.
Yeah.
Which we got to see him. I was excited about that.
Yeah, and I mean, after that night, that's when things start to go a little weary, and like they start suspecting that maybe it was them. Like maybe they're like just doing that is what's causing all these bad things to happen to the town. The Reverend, Hannah Miller's dad, is starting to act weird. He's just kind of sitting there like muttering to himself in the house, which is kind of creepy too. And then among other things that are happening, like fruit and stuff is just starting to rot and everything.
Just blight everywhere.
Just, yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's whenever she kind of goes and consoles and talks to her friend a little bit, I just kept imagining it was Aaron Rodgers the whole time. Solomon Good, he looks like Aaron fucking Rodgers the whole movie. So I was like, this is Aaron Rodgers this whole movie, and he turns into such an asshole.
Yeah, as Aaron Rodgers does.
I mean, just to kind of get into it, that's what things start to happen. And then one of the crazy parts that was really creepy was that's when the Reverend kind of snaps. And then like they had to bust into the church and they see like the Reverend cut his eyes out and then cut all of these children of the village's eyes out. It was wild, man.
I thought out of all the horror scenes in all the movies, that was the best atmospheric horror scene when he was walking up the aisles and all the children were there and the Reverend was slumped over.
Yeah.
That felt the most atmospheric to me, like it was atmospheric.
Out of all three of them, yeah.
At all the movies, I think that was the best horror scene. Where the slasher movie, a while better, it was just like, boom, he's running at you, chopping.
Like, they're just like, because they took a minute to bust down the door. And then, like, you don't even see what happens when he goes in at first. He just comes out. He's like, you let everybody out here. And like, oh, shit. So they build up the tension really well. And then they kind of, even when he's just walking down and you see, like, the pile on the ground, you're like, what is that? And then, you know, it still takes a minute. And then you see exactly what happens.
All that. And I thought it was great. The Reverend, I thought that was the best scene of the movie and the series, personally.
That's when they start having the meeting about who are we gonna blame. We gotta blame somebody.
Gotta blame somebody. Can't be that Reverend.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the Solomon Good, I mean Aaron Rodgers, I'm just gonna say Aaron Rodgers,
just Aaron Rodgers.
That's when old MVP Aaron Rodgers stood up and said, it was the Reverend that killed him. Why do we need to blame anyone? I killed the man that
and he's like, no.
Fault. And they're like, that's not good enough, we gotta blame somebody else.
Gotta be a hanging tonight, I'm bored.
And that's when, like, the dude that was butthurt that he got turned down at the party came forward, is like, I saw them making love to the devil or whatever. And then like, everybody was like, all of a sudden just like, yeah, I seen it too.
Which, that is the scene, and I've been watching these with Marissa, that pissed Marissa off the most, man. She's like, this dude tried to basically rape that girl.
Yeah.
And like, they're mad at them. Like, they're mad at them. This dude's cool. It's cool, man. Just a little rape. Boys will be boys. And I'm just like, hey, man, that was the times. Like, that's awful.
And the thing that got me was like, because there was a couple other people that were accusing first, and that's when Aaron Rodgers stood up. It was like, what are you basing this on? You have no evidence or whatever. And then that's when the person came up. He's like, I saw him, whatever. And then all of a sudden, everybody else's story just changed. And I feel like he should have been like, still, you don't have any evidence. You're just saying
like
this.
Still, what are you doing?
What are you doing? But yeah, at that point, they should have just ran. They waited until the last possible minute to start running. And that's whatever, like, her friend gets captured. They beat her up. They chain her inside of like that church area.
Now
and everything. And
before we jump into this, the second part, this is what confused me a little bit, because it's Good. I mean, we're in spoiler points. She finds out that Good is the villain. He's who sacrifices the town for prosperity on his name. I'm confused why the blight happened then, because the blight is what I was like. Why did
that doesn't continue either?
The pigs are eating each other. They couldn't have fruit and stuff. Like, all that stuff doesn't continue. That's the only part I was like, that's a little like that wasn't coherent for me. But good twist, by the way. Did not see it coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Even from 66 and the whole movie arc, I didn't see that twist coming.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, all right.
Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, she went to the witch. She found the book was gone and everything, and that's whenever she went back to Aaron Rodgers' house.
Yeah,
because throughout the whole movie, she's like, he's been kind of the dude that she's gone to with her issues. He seemed like such a cool guy for the whole movie.
Seemed like
and
a
all
friend.
of a sudden, like, because he even seems like the good guy in that situation. He's like hide. Like, I'll got you. Don't worry, because that's when the villagers are like, rabble, rabble, rabble. You're hiding her in there. Get your torch and pitchforks. And he's like, you're hiding something. Let me see the room. And that's whenever she kind of like sees like the little hideaway that she crawls into and finds like the tablets and the
which wasn't hidden very well.
It wasn't hidden very well.
You could hide that better.
And that's like he ends up pretty much how like the villains do, explaining their whole plan,
as Scooby-Doo villains do.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought it was a good twist is to have him, and I thought it made sense, with, I mean, the blight part doesn't really make sense. You brought that to light here.
Yeah.
but it makes sense in like in the the overall arc of the story, how each town are the way they are, and why the murders happen. I thought it was set up pretty well, especially like all these years. I mean, you see those tablets in the past 2 movies, they're completely full. And it starts with like there's one of them, one name on that list right now.
Me and Marissa kind of argued about this. Now, is it every generation it happens, or is it she's like, it's every year. And I'm like, it can't be every year.
Yeah, I feel like it can't be every year. I feel like in the first one, it's been a while now since I watched it. I feel like they were saying it was like every 10 years or something.
Yeah. Well, I was like, if it was every year, like, and now we're moving to the old when the killers come to get him, I was like, there'd be 300 killers coming to get him, I mean, like a ludicrous amount of killers. Yeah,
there's got to be like every 10 or like 20 years or something.
Yeah. I was telling her, I was like, I think it's every generation, like every generation that happens, but maybe.
But I mean, yeah, shit gets crazy pretty fast. I mean, she stabs him, pieces out, and then like they start coming to the wall, and that's whenever like you start seeing things come into fruition. You see where she loses her hand, and that's where they find a hand in the last movie. Like he ends up stabbing her in the wrist, and like she pulls her hand off. That was for like, there was a lot of pretty gruesome moments in this one, man.
That was gruesome, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's whenever she kicks the floorboards, comes out of the church, and I was like, I just immediately thought whenever she walked out the door, people were gonna be waiting for her. But man, like it was even worse that he like came up behind her and was like, I found her, I found the witch, and I was like, oh man, this asshole.
Fucking
this
Aaron
guy,
Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I mean, and that's whenever they hang her from the tree.
Says the thing.
Yeah, she confesses and everything. She puts the curse on him.
She saves Hannah though, which I thought was super noble and super sad.
Says that
like, I thought that whole scene was kind of sad.
She like hazed her mind or whatever. She like
she's like, I bewitched her.
I bewitched her. Yeah, she took the fall, man.
I thought that was sad and noble, and I liked, keep moving on with your story here. After they do that, the people take her body away, like all the people that knew Hannah or Sarah Fear, and they moved her body and gave her a proper burial, which I liked also.
Yeah, and I mean that just kind of leads right into the 1994 story, where they know that what they have to do now is kill the sheriff. And all this is because it's his bloodline that's keeping up this curse the whole time. He's the one that his family are the ones that have to go down and write a name for the devil. And
so they prosper.
Yeah, and I mean, I think his brother was like a governor or a mayor or something.
I think he's the mayor of Sunnyvale.
Yeah. And I mean, that just kind of sets up they devise a plan where they're like, all right, we gotta trap him and all the killers into this mall. They get like the one dude from the first movie who keeps getting like arrested all the time,
which was awesome. Hilarious.
Yeah,
he was a fun character. So right before, when they're going to get the girl and the guy, I thought it was super disrespectful. They pass a street sign and it says Fear Street, like FEIR. And I'm like, yo, they killed a witch and then named a street after her. Like, I'd be mad as shit too.
Right?
Like how disrespectful. Like, that's disrespectful as shit.
But I really liked their plan though. I thought it was pretty creative, where like they trapped all the killers in each store of the mall,
like the gates.
And then they got the sheriff to come in, and then they just sprayed the blood all over him. And the plan was to release the killers on him. That way the killers were gonna kill him, and then that would defeat the curse and everything. But of course, nothing ever goes to plan.
which when it doesn't go to plan and continue moving your beat, I loved. And I thought the best fan service is when they let the killers out, everybody escapes, and they spray the monsters with the blood, and they all fight each other. Oh my
gosh, and they're just hacking and slashing each other the whole time.
That should have been a longer scene. That could have been like 20 minutes on its own,
Yeah, they should have let it go for a little bit, but they kind of cut it out.
Yeah, but it was still a great scene though. I was like, yeah, like you got to see them all.
That one killer was so creepy. The one that looks like, like the weird face.
Yeah,
he has just like the knife and the jumpsuit.
Oh, see, the one with like the it
Oh,
wasn't a
like the
gas
gas
mask,
mask?
like yeah,
Yeah.
like straight mask on. I thought he was cool. I was like, oh, that
Yo, he
guy,
was cool too.
that's a brute.
But I mean, he just, of course, there seems like there's a passage down to this cave
Everywhere.
everywhere within this town, because
Yeah.
they automatically knew where to go in this mall to get down into that little tunnel, and she follows him because that's where good escapes to. And then they kind of come into that room with the heart, which you never really kind of figure
Never
out
learned.
anything about this. And I mean, she confronts him and everything. And now this is kind of a plot hole. I think she looks at it, and her idea was, and she made him touch it because
Yeah.
he like tricks her. He gets the knife. She makes him touch it, and that's when he starts seeing like all the victims of like all these killers, and that's what fucks him up. But like, how would she know why to do that? Because I think that was in the '78 movie, and it was a completely different character that did that.
Sure. I mean, I guess she was told the story.
I know,
I'm
but I mean,
picking,
it was like
cherry picking.
it was like the completely
The
different.
blonde.
It was like
Yeah.
the blonde, which was like
Yeah.
the one chick's friend. But it was like, I don't know, how would she even know why to do that? Like, why would she choose to do that in a situation? But oh well.
Also, in the same scene before she does that, I hate that Sam is choking her and she can like, no, it's me, and Sam's like, oh yeah, yeah. Like I hate when movies do that.
Like
I'm
that.
like,
Why
no,
wouldn't that have worked the first time
ever.
when she first
Yeah,
attacked you?
yeah, anytime.
I hate that
like
too.
I hate that bull. That was
That's
stupid.
how they solved the. Speaking of the Conjuring review with me and Evan are going to be doing here in a couple weeks, watch for that. That's how they cure the exorcism in the Conjuring movie. They just make her remember good memories. Oh, she's back. It's a cheap cop out.
Cheap cop out.
I didn't like that either. That was the only really part I didn't like. Was like, come on, man. I feel like there was no need for her to even be down there. They could have just let her tied up.
Or give the girl again, whatever her name is.
Yeah, Dina.
Dina, like let her hit Sam, dude. Let her smack that bitch with like something.
She did. Rock. She cracked the shit out. Like she smashed her head off the ground. But she came back. Like But
it would have been even better if she just came running and dude just like pow and smacked her right in the head. I'd have been cool with that.
She makes the sheriff touch the weird heart thing. He starts seeing visions of all like the murderers and all the like people that they killed, and then she stabs him in the eye and kills.
Great scene, also.
Yeah, and then all the murderers just disappear. Everything like the curse has been lifted and everything, and that's whenever it kind of starts going into the epilogue, which I want to know how they proved that the sheriff was behind everything, because like they were on the news, they were like the sheriff was behind all the murders.
Yeah, linked to the murders. Yeah, I thought about that too.
And I was like, how did they prove this? Like it was all witchcraft and stuff. Like, how did they prove this? What, like, did they just go out and tell the cops to go down in those tombs? Because I feel like if they would have just let it go, like nobody would have known.
I guess like right, because they come out of his like room there.
Yeah.
I guess right under there would be the stone tablets, but all that disappeared, so it would just be like a bunch of stone tablets.
Yeah.
They'd be like,
all that was left is the book and his dead body, but like you wouldn't even like all this the witch symbol on the floor, all that is gone. It's like how you don't have any evidence of witchcraft. You wouldn't even have any because like it was the weird like murderers that killed people. How would you even link it back to the sheriff in any way? And his family.
I didn't super think. Well, his family didn't get in trouble. I do remember that.
Yeah, they were saying they're like, oh, we know nothing about that. Like,
yeah, weird.
It is weird. I thought it was weird how they tied it up because, like, you see at the very end at the after credits. I don't know if you saw it the after credits or not. Yeah, you see like all the police markings. You saw that police were down in the tombs at some point, but you see the police were down there, but they didn't take the only evidence that was down there, which was the book. They just left
like a
it
bunch
there.
Of stuff up. Yeah.
And then you see hands come out and grab the book, which is like, who the hell took the book? Will we know? We might never know. Who knows if they decide to make some more.
I think they should.
Or whatever.
We talked about this before. I think they should make it a show now, like something a little easy digestible. Like I'd like that.
I mean, I'll be happy. Like I know they might have done it for a reason, but I mean, I'd be happy if they just made a Fear Street and just made a whole separate story altogether and just let this one be its own.
I'm even cool if it ends. Like if this ends it and this is it. Every horror movie holds a cliffhanger. It's fine. The only other minor complaint I got, and again, love this series, is I don't like when like the villain's revealed and they do like a 180 turn on their personality. The cop honestly seemed like an okay guy, and I
Yeah.
know it was a
Oh my
facade.
gosh, like this whole
Cool.
movie, like as soon as
Yeah,
you see him, it's turned. He's like, "Why are you out here?" Like
yeah,
whenever he sees like her brother in the car in the middle of the road, he's like, "What's
yeah,
going on?" And dude, as soon as she grabs him and start running, he pulls his gun.
yeah, dude.
I was like,
180 turn
"Whoa!"
instantly. He's like bad guy, and I'm like, damn. Like, did he know she was down there and just had an hour and a half flashback of
Right,
Sarah Fierce's
right.
story? Like, he doesn't know what
Like,
the hell
because
is going on.
all he was doing was just standing there, and then she comes out and grabs him, and she's like, "Run!" And dude just draws his gun automatically.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even do anything.
Yep.
Like he
Yeah.
has
No,
to know something. I don't know.
I thought that was a little weak too. We talked about like weak character development. That was a little weak, but other than that, I thought it was great.
Yeah,
So
I feel like it might have worked if you would have shown a little bit more with the sheriff. You
Yeah.
know, like I feel like it might have worked if you just did 1666 as part 3, and then part 4 could have been just 1994 part 2. You
Yeah.
know, and then had its old separate movie. That way, you could have kind of developed the backstory of the sheriff as well.
they flash back to the sheriff kind of doing stuff to the guy, like spray painting. He's like, "No, this is my paint," which I'm excited to watch again, just so I could pick up all those little like
Yeah,
those nods, even in the 60 or the 78 version.
yeah,
And they're like, and he's like, you know, I did this, and she's like, "Oh, don't blame yourself." I didn't even think about it. I'm just like, "Oh, that guy's noble," but now looking back on it, I'm like, "Oh no, he did do that. Like he actually did it."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I mean, it was good. I think they wrapped it up pretty nicely. I think all the information you needed was there. I just think maybe like they maybe should have put it into 4 parts. That way, 1994 would have had its own second part to kind of flesh out a little bit more story. That way, you get to see the sheriff turn into the bad guy a little bit. And plus, if you would have released in October, you would have had a part for each week, man.
yeah.
Like, what are you thinking?
What are you
Netflix,
thinking?
what are you thinking? It was a good series, but come on, man, you would have did numbers. I mean, I'm
Great
sure it's
series.
doing ratings, but you would have got numbers in October.
It's
People were
doing
looking for
ratings.
horror shit to
Everybody I'm
watch.
seeing is rating it really high. So and I'm glad it
Yeah.
deserves the praise.
Yeah, and I mean, just to get to our scores here, man, what would you give it out of a 10? Like, not even just
This one.
maybe this part, and then the whole series.
I would give this part, like I said, I don't even remember what I rated the other two. Well, I only rated the other one. I'd
You
probably give
said
this one.
you gave it like an 8 or an 8.5. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think I'd give this one like a 7.6, 7.4, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. Like I liked it, maybe just a tinge more than the first one, but I liked it. And then for the whole series, I mean, I'd go as high as like an 8.1, man. Like I liked it. I thought it was a great horror series. I'm excited for my kids to get older and watch it with them. I think it'll be great.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not as I don't know. There's just something about it that screams like it's not a full-blown horror, but at the same time, I mean, there's some elements in it that are like, okay, yeah, this might want to wait a little bit till the kids are a little older to watch this.
It's dips and vault. Like sometimes it feels like a Goosebumps, and then sometimes you're like, oh, this is a horror movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
yeah, but I mean, for this one, I would probably give it around a 7.5. For the whole series, I would probably give it about the same. Like for the whole trilogy, I'd probably say it's a 7.5. I say it's above average as far as like a horror trilogy goes. I think it stays pretty consistent. I don't think there's really any drop-offs in it. I think the first one's probably the weakest one, but I mean,
good.
It's still good. Yeah, I don't think
good.
it's terrible by any means.
Yeah.
But I would definitely recommend it.
That this will be a trilogy I'm definitely going to revisit again. Like I'm excited to watch it one more time.
Yeah, definitely. It's something I'll probably rewatch again.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here and reviewing these last 2 movies here with us and pretty much the whole trilogy. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure to check out all of our other content. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. And we'll see everybody later.